Hello everyone, welcome to the Shell Point Today program for Monday, June 29th. I'm Dan Filgreen. On today's show, we'll take a look at an academy class that will bring new life to old computers. And Mary Kay Grimaldi visits with facilities manager Bryan Lutton to find out about his recent recognition as a mentor to a young man for 10 years. But first, we want to remind you that tomorrow is Adrian Kerr's Academy class entitled, Who Really Discovered America? Most of us were taught that Columbus rediscovered the Americas in 1492. However, there are many alternative stories and legends that suggest that the Spanish were actually beaten to the Americas by others. Professor Kerr will investigate some of the most famous discovery stories in history, as well as some of the most fanciful legends. The class is at 10 tomorrow morning in the Grand Cypress Room at the Woodlands. Looking ahead to this weekend, don't forget to join us for America's Birthday Bash at the Village Church from 1 to 3 p.m. on Saturday. The celebration will consist of games and entertainment, as well as my favorite, food. A selection of ice cream and toppings will be served, along with delicious lemonade. There is no ticket required for this event, so just show up in your best blues or reds or whites and celebrate the 4th. Also, another patriotic celebration is the summer concert happening on July 10th. The River City Brass Ensemble takes the stage at the Village Church Auditorium for a patriotic tribute led by internationally acclaimed tuba player James Gourley. Tickets are available at either service desk or by calling 454-2067. Have you received a phone call from someone recently who identified themselves as a representative from Microsoft Windows? Someone who wants to fix your vulnerable computer or software? Please note that neither Microsoft nor their partners make unsolicited phone calls about your computer security or software. If you receive a call like this, Microsoft is advising you to hang up the phone and do not provide them with any of your personal information. Now, if you are running an older computer with a version of Windows such as Windows XP that Microsoft no longer supports, you may be thinking that it's time to toss it for a new one. Or maybe you feel the new Windows version just isn't for you. Well, Lou Gehrig of Lakewood wants to show you how to give new life to that old bucket of circuit boards with an alternative operating system. He visits with Terry Kolath now to talk about his classes starting next Thursday.
Hello, I'm Terry Kolath, and I'm here with Lou Gehrig of Lakewood, and we're talking about something that I find astounding, and you might too. This is a class coming up in the Computer College in the Academy of Lifelong Learning. Thank you for joining me, Lou.
It's good to be here.
Well, I was talking with you and mentioned that I have 2 laptops that no longer work, and you stopped me and said, well, that might not be true. And this is so exciting. I wanted to share with Shell Point not only what you're teaching in the Academy, but what the possibilities are for giving new life to old computers, the title of your class.
Well, this assumes that there's a little bit of life left.
Which we don't know until the doctor examines it, right?
That's right.
Okay.
But basically, computers are very sturdy, and they last a long time. And what wears out is our patience with the operating system most often, and that can be changed. A lot of people don't realize that computers are all on a single architecture that was designed by Intel, and it will run Windows, or it will run Mac, OS 10, or it will run Linux.
Now let me stop you. The hard part of the computer.
That's right, the box.
The box. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so what you put on that box is up to you.
Your operating system.
That's right. And when things happen like Microsoft no longer supports XP, why then we look for something else that will work on that machine. And one of the things I use to replace Windows is Linux Mint, or just Mint.
M-I-N-T?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right.
And Linux is?
It's an operating system.
An operating system, okay.
Like Windows or like the OS 10.
You do something interesting with these old computers. Tell us about that.
When I first came to Shell Point, when Lakewood opened,
long time ago,
Richard Nelson and I got together and were fiddling with computers, and we would help people with computers. And then some of those computers would be cast off, and we would see what we could do with them. We would try to make them work again. And one thing led to another, to the point where in recent years we were able to refurbish old computers, put Linux on them, and give them to an organization like Brightest Horizons.
Right around the corner.
Right around the corner.
Little children in need, yep.
And a number of them have gone to the mission field too.
Fabulous. So, what I found so exciting about this is not only the possibility that my own laptop or a PC that you feel might stop working could go to help myself, a family member, or someone in need.
That's exactly right.
What a wonderful thing. So you're going to actually teach how to do this.
Right.
In 3 sessions.
Right. We talk about it the first session so people know what to expect.
Right.
The thing to remember is it's not hard. We're talking about a disk, you know, that's got the operating system on it.
How do you get that disk?
Download it from the internet and burn it to a DVD.
How much does it cost?
$0.
That's amazing.
That's the best price I ever heard of.
Download it from the internet to a disk and then...
Right, and that's the way it's designed. It's legal. It's free open source software.
Now you say prerequisites, basic computer skills. This is if you're going to take this class, and we hope people will take advantage of this. Basic computer skills and a general knowledge of your computer specifications. What does that mean in regular old English?
Well, it has to do with the capabilities of the processor, the amount of RAM that it has, and the hard drive.
So basically, to come to this particular course, we just need to know what our computer is capable of.
Right.
The basic computer. Tell me this, Lou. Once we put Linux on our old computer and give it some new life, what can we do with it?
Everything you could do with a new one.
That's amazing.
The key in this day and time is actually the Google Chrome browser. And what that does, it runs on every type of machine. And once you have an account, and most ShellPoint people have Gmail.
That gives us an account.
That gives us an account. You install that on your machine, whether it's Linux or whether it's Windows, and they'll sync all that stuff. And you wouldn't know, unless you really look, that you're dealing with Mint or you're dealing with Windows.
This is fabulous. Well, let me just say, ShellPoint residents, that you can look in the Academy brochure, you can look in the Computer College section, you can look at CC158, New Life World Computers. You can even see the email address for our instructor if you have a question. This gentleman, like all of our Computer College instructors, wants you to come to the right class. So check it out. If you don't feel comfortable that you're all ready for the class, just shoot an email to Mr. Gerig and say, am I ready? And join us. Sign up at either service desk.
ShellPoint Facilities Manager Bryan Lutton has a past. But don't worry, we're not talking about anything that should be swept under a rug. On the contrary, in fact, one TV news station in Champaign, Illinois thought Bryan's story was so positive that they shared the details with their viewing audience. It turns out that Bryan has been a mentor to a young high school graduate ever since he was in the 3rd grade. Students who finished the one-to-one mentor program were recently honored at a banquet in Illinois where Bryan made a surprise visit after the two had been apart for 2 years. Well, we thought that this story was worth sharing as well. So Mary Kay Grimaldi sat down with Bryan to get all the details.
Hello everyone, I'm Mary Kay Grimaldi. No matter how long it's been since we were at the age in life when we looked to others for guidance and support, we can still name those special people who taught us, lifted us up, steered us on the right path. Those heroes, teachers, and mentors. That's the role ShellPoint Maintenance Manager Bryan Lutton has held for more than a decade, serving as mentor to a young man in central Illinois. Even though Bryan moved to Florida several years ago, this relationship and positive influence continued, with some impressive, although not surprising, results. Hi, Bryan. Welcome to ShellPoint today. Thank you for being here with us.
Hi, Mary Kay.
Good.
Thank you.
First of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role here at Shell Point? How did you get here?
Well, I'm the maintenance manager here at Shell Point. I've been here for about 7 months now. My job is responsible for all the facilities and all the buildings across the entire property. How I arrived here was a long story. I've had over 20 years of experience in the facilities maintenance fields. I've managed, airports. I've managed office companies, insurance companies, and most recently I worked for a national insurance company, or actually international insurance company, before I came down to Florida.
That's great. Well, describe the role you served as a mentor to this young man in Illinois. Who is he and how did you become involved?
His name was Demetrius Jackson, and he was, when we started, he was a third grader. It started through the one-to-one mentoring program, which is a school-sponsored event or program. And it is finding at-risk children that need some sort of a mentoring or guidance through, the school systems. Like I said, we got introduced to when he was in third grade, and luckily enough, it stuck between the two of us, and we became really good friends throughout the years. And getting to watch him graduate from high school this past May was fantastic.
That's great. Well, what kinds of things did you do together as his mentor?
Primarily, I met with him once a week during the school year. We would, most of the time, just meet at lunch and just sit and talk at lunch. We played games, card games, basketball. It was a lot more of, he just had questions about life.
Yeah.
And that was the goal that we, the program was just to be somebody that was consistently there in his life and just help him answer questions. And he had a lot of questions.
What kinds of things, or how did your involvement affect his growing up years?
I think I was just mostly the stable contact that he always had. He knew he could always ask me anything. He could talk to me. And I was pretty much just a standard guidance person, adult in his life throughout the years. He certainly had a lot of opportunities, to make mistakes and a lot of challenges in his life. And this was, the one stable value that we had and constant in his life, throughout 10 years of going to school.
Yeah. Well, and I understand you recently made a trip back to Illinois. Tell us a little bit about that.
I did. He wound up getting a scholarship through the one-to-one mentoring program to go to college. He's graduated in May, and he's going to go to Illinois State University. He still wants to play football. He played football in high school, and so he wants to continue try to walk onto the football program. But he has a goal of becoming a physical therapist, and he's extremely excited about it. I mean, to have that opportunity to be able to go to college, and the scholarship certainly helps with starting out that right direction.
Well, what was the special occasion in Illinois that you were there for?
It was the one-to-one mentoring banquet, and I arrived, and he didn't know I was going to be there. It had been about a year and a half since I had seen him, and so it was a complete surprise, and there was about 1,500 of us in the banquet center. His family, I got to meet them for the first time. He had met my wife and daughter before throughout the years of mentoring. And so it was my first time to get to meet a lot of his family, and he was very surprised to see me.
Yeah.
And it was actually a wonderful event for him and I to get back together and talk and share some time together.
And obviously sharing his pride in moving on in his life, and thanks to your contribution as his mentor. So that was a nice wrap up to your many years of mentoring him along the way. Well, speaking of mentoring and transitioning, what kind of a role do you play here at Shell Point, and how do you feel that some of those mentoring skills apply to what you do in the maintenance department here?
Well, I think the biggest thing that's consistent with it is that you're mentoring all your employees every day. You got to lead by example, and it also helps you're coaching and guiding them. You're not necessarily, I'm not here I'm trying to provide positive reinforcement to my staff. So therefore, even if there is a mistake made, which sometimes can happen, let's learn from those mistakes and let's move on. And it's very much true in mentoring the same way, that you learn a lot from your own mistakes, and you take what you can from those mistakes and you move on to the next opportunity that you
Sounds
can have.
like part of your philosophy. How about caring, serving, and satisfying? Are there examples that you might share of some of the things maybe behind the scenes that go on in the maintenance department?
Well, the goal of a lot of my staff maybe isn't necessarily be behind the scenes. We try very hard to make sure that there's a lot of things that necessarily don't get noticed, but they get done. That's the goal. I mean, we're very integral in setting up for the Christmas tree and the festival in the lagoon every year. We just recently, one of my staff just picked up a wheelchair that was left by a resident up in North Fort Myers. And so the goal is for my staff and for me is to make sure that, while we want to take care of the residents, every detail that they have or anything that comes up with them, the goal is to make sure that we go unnoticed, which is really the main thing is, things get done without anybody noticing that they actually got done. Yeah. Certainly there's a lot of highlights with, remodeling and, repainting and things like that throughout the communities. But really the goal overall is to make sure, we get it done before the residents even notice that there was a problem.
Well, and we thank you for that, all of us. Well, thank you, Bryan, for sharing your experiences with us and your background and the mentoring contributions you've made. So, Bryan, not only did you make a commitment to finish what you started, you were a positive influence on this young man, leading him to succeed and reach for his dreams. And we wish you all the same success with your team here at Shell Point. I'm Mary Kay Grimaldi for Shell Point Today.
And now, let's bring you up to date with all the latest happenings, Academy news, menus, and Village Church connections. Right after this Listening to the Words preview from David Howenstein.
Hello, and welcome to one of our nation's Independence Day celebrations. This year, I'm lifting features from 3 of my past 4th of July programs, adding some music, and combining it all into a special encore performance. How did Independence Day in 1776 happen? John Adams proclaimed that July 2nd would mark the most memorable epoch in the history of America. It was on that day that the Continental Congress declared the 13 colonies free and independent of Great Britain's crown. 2 days later, Thomas Jefferson's Declaration of Independence was adopted. Then 10 years later, our young nation's celebration was dubbed Independence Day. First on this year's program, listen to me to the inspiring memories of a then young American's immigrant grandfather who taught his grandson to doff his hat to Old Glory. Then we'll hear the long ago, unforgettable memories of a special 4th of July experienced by a present resident of Shell Point. Then, if you're up to it, and you'd better be, full productions of 2 of the most popular patriotic songs ever written, created by George M. Cohan and sung by James Cagney. As always, Listening to the Words is heard twice each hour every day this week on Shell Point Channel 12. Or now and thereafter online when you point your browser to www.shellpoint.net, click on Media, and then click on Listening to the Words. Once there, click on Program 195A. It's my way of saying Happy Independence Day 2015.
Hi, and welcome to the Happening segment of Shell Point TV. My name is Bev Chandley, and I'm going to go over the activities that we offer for you through Resort Services today. We're going to start at 8:45 with virtual bowling at the Resident Activity Center. At 9 o'clock, we have men's round robin doubles tennis at the Woodlands Tennis Courts. Billiards will be at the Resident Activity Center at 9:15. Also at 9:15, the Lollygaggers Paddlers will meet at the Kayak Storage Facility for their weekly outing. We have pottery with instruction available at the Pottery Studio at 9:15. We're going to go to 10 o'clock where the Suzy Q will be going to Matanzas on the Bay. That's the lunch trip, and sign up is required for that. At 10:30, the Disciple Men's Study Group will be in the game room of the Woodlands. Table tennis will be down in the Tarpon Room, and this one is a clinic at 10:45. At 11:30, we have a Health Connections class, Agility and Flexibility. That'll be in the Health Club on the island. We're going to move into the afternoon for those activities. We're going to start today at 12 o'clock. We'll have Mahjong being played in the Sable Room of the Woodlands. Advanced table tennis will be in the Tarpon Room at 1:15. Samba, the card game, will be at the Resident Activity Center at 1:15. Then we go to 2 o'clock for the Beady-Eyed Bead Club. They meet in the Oak Room of the Woodlands. Health Connections class Pilates Stretch will be in the Health Club at 3 o'clock. And at 5 o'clock, we have the singles table at the Crystal Dining Room available. Duplicate Bridge will be in the Game Room of the Woodlands at 6:30. And at 6:45, we have our final activity for the day, movie night. Room for one more. It's a 1952 film that's in the Social Center. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you back here again tomorrow.
Hello, I'm Terry Colath with your Academy information for Monday. At 10:30, the Anatomy of Words class will meet in the Oak Room of the Woodlands, and they welcome everyone. Tomorrow we have a couple new classes, one by Professor Adrian Kerr, who really discovered America, and you can sign up right at the door. We also have that iPad, iPhone walk-in clinic with Penny Modridge and her generous volunteers.
Menus for Monday. In the Crystal Room, the Crystal Platter is kielbasa served on sauerkraut with apples and a potato pierogi. The dinner special is Old Home Cooking Night for $11.95, and the soup of the day is split pea. In the Island Cafe for lunch on Monday, the special is a chili cheese dog with baked beans and a side salad for $7.75. The dinner special is crab cakes with yellow rice and fresh fruit for $8.75. And the Palm Grill is closed on Mondays. All menus are available 24 hours a day at www.shellpoint.net.
Hello, everyone. This is Village Church Connections, and I'm Janice Quinlan, your international worker in residence, working with the Village Church this year. Today, I've come to talk with you about honor. The Bible has a lot to say about honor. Honor and respect are actually quite different. Respect is something someone earns, while honor is a gift you give freely. Find ways to honor people, not just because they deserve it, but because it's the right thing to do. The Bible says we ought to show honor to those who are in authority over us. Romans 13, 1-7 explains that God in His sovereignty has placed people in positions of leadership. I admit, most of my adult years have been spent living in Asia. Sometimes I feel like a stranger in my own birth country. I have lived in a kingdom with a king, in a culture that limits the boundaries of free speech. Whenever I come back to the United States, I am always a bit taken back by the comments people voice about our president. I may not necessarily agree with many of his policies or be a personal fan of his leadership, but regardless of my personal views, I am a citizen of the United States. I am not honoring the man or the office when I offer belittling comments about the president in social settings. We are supposed to show honor not only to powerful people, but to all those who are in authority over us. Who might those people in your life be? The Bible also tells us to honor our pastors and church leaders. In 1 Timothy 5, verse 17, it states, "The elders who direct the affairs of the church well are worthy of double honor, especially those whose work is preaching and teaching." So we are also instructed to show honor to those who lead us spiritually. Is it possible to grow in honor when we live in a dishonoring culture? The answer to this question is found in Romans chapter 12, verse 10. Love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. I ask myself, how can I outdo others in showing honor, regardless of whether the person deserves it or not? Quite honestly, many don't deserve it. Give it freely anyway. Always keeping before us what Christ has freely given to us, especially since we didn't deserve it either. There are so many people who regularly serve us in our homes, at church, in the community. Show them honor by being overly courteous, offering words of encouragement, and smiling freely. Esteem them highly and tell them how much you value them. Then demonstrate it by actions that reinforce the kind words that we speak. Perhaps the root cause of dishonoring each other is that as a culture, we have dishonored God. In our culture, God is treated as common or ordinary. He is regularly referred to as the man upstairs, a higher power, or the big guy. He is so much more than that. He is the Alpha and Omega, the sustainer and creator of the universe, including us, his created beings. Because of what he did for us on the cross, we honor him with our lives and with our speech. We are admonished to value others and show them honor, opening the door for them to see that they are valuable enough for Jesus to give his life for. Is honor the forgotten virtue? May it not be so among us. On behalf of the Village Church, have a wonderful day.
Thanks for joining us today. On tomorrow's program, Jim Plummer will talk about his Academy class on enhancing digital photos. And we'll show you some pictures from a recent Academy on the Go outing to the Florida Keys. This has been Shell Point Today for Monday, June 29th. I'm Dan Filgreen, and on behalf of the entire staff of Shell Point TV, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow.